Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got this stack of source material you sent over.
Yep, ready to go?
And today we're really diving into LinkedIn, specifically how you make that leap, to macro influencer status.
Right.
We're using this document, part 4 of a series on LinkedIn strategy. So our mission, let's unpack it.
Let's do it.
Pull out the key insights, figure out the strategies you need for that next level. I'm really curious about what actually changes when you get that big.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? This dive, it's not really just about follower counts. The source frames it more like a real professional transformation on the platform, moving beyond just having an audience.
To actually having real, recognized influence in your industry, becoming an authority.
Exactly. That's the core idea.
Okay, so let's unpack that transformation. What does this source actually say a macro influencer is, quantitatively?
Okay, so the doc gives a clear range. Macro level starts at 500,000 followers, 500,000.
Wow.
And it goes up to 999,000. So just under that million mark. 500,000 to nearly a million. That's a huge audience.
It is.
But the document, I think it was page 3, it makes it really clear follower count is only part of it. There's something else.
Yeah.
Something even more crucial.
Absolutely. And this is where I think the source says the real strategic thinking kicks in.
Right.
Beyond just the numbers, it stresses hitting 85% brand recognition, specifically in industry professionals.
85% within your field.
Yeah. Think about that. It's not just how many random people see your stuff. It's how many people who matter in your industry know who you are, what you do, what you stand for.
That totally changes the focus. It's relevance.
Reputation.
Reputation, not just reach.
Precisely. You're known and ideally trusted within that professional circle.
So getting there, it's not just doing more of the same, but bigger. Page 2 talks about 3 fundamental strategic shifts. What are those big changes?
Right. The source identifies 3 core shifts. They're kind of non-negotiable at this level. First is scale transformation.
I mean, obviously your reach explodes. But the key insight here is you now have to manage much broader, more diverse audience expectations. What worked for 50K might not land the same way with 500K.
Right, yeah. The audience isn't just one group anymore. Makes sense.
Exactly. Second is impact evolution. This is interesting. Your influence stops being just a byproduct and becomes a primary responsibility and a massive strategic opportunity. It's less about who follows you and much, much more about what you can actually change or shape in your industry.
So you're expected to actively steer things, not just comment.
That's it. You're part of the mechanism now.
Yeah.
And the third shift is strategic positioning.
Positioning.
Yeah. The focus shifts dramatically. You stop just chasing follower growth, and you consciously work to embed yourself as a true industry thought leader. It's a total mindset change about your role.
That idea, industry thought leadership, that feels like the absolute core of this macro level. So how does the guide say you do that? Page 4 gets into the methods.
It does. It lays out a few key ways. One is macro trend analysis.
Okay.
This means you're consistently sharing insights on the big picture. Industry-wide shifts, emerging patterns. You're looking beyond the day-to-day noise.
Connecting the dots for people, seeing the bigger currents.
Yes. Another is offering strategic perspectives.
Yeah.
So providing viewpoints that resonate at the executive level.
Like C-suite level thinking.
Exactly. Insights on business transformation, market changes, tech impacts, but framed from that leadership angle.
Yeah.
And crucially, it mentions industry conversation shaping.
Shaping the conversation.
Yeah. You're not just joining discussions anymore. You're actively starting them, leading them, setting the agenda for what professionals are talking about, steering the debate.
Wow. That's a big shift, moving from participant to architect.
It is. And the source explains why that's so key.
Yeah.
It solidifies your authority, your relevance. It shows you can synthesize complex stuff and offer guidance that matters to decision makers.
Okay, so that's the strategic mindset. What about the actual tactics, the how-to? The document gets specific there. Let's look at executive interview and panel discussions on page 5.
Right. So it suggests a deliberate interview strategy. This means hosting conversations, maybe video or audio, with high-level people. C-suite execs, innovators, pioneers in the field.
Getting the big names.
Yes, but the value isn't just the name. It's about pulling out exclusive, maybe behind-the-scenes insights that your audience wouldn't get otherwise.
Providing that unique access, like an insider view.
Exactly. And then there's panel participation. This is about actively getting yourself onto high-profile industry panels, debates, maybe at conferences or big online forums.
Being on the stage.
Right. The goal is positioning yourself as an expert voice alongside other leaders, being seen as part of those key industry discussions, not just watching them.
So you're both hosting the big conversations and being a key voice in them elsewhere.
Got it. The document also talked about network leverage strategy on page 6. How does your network function differently here? It can't just be about connections anymore.
No, it shifts significantly. It becomes about strategic collaboration. First, it mentions strategic amplification.
Okay.
So you share content from other respected leaders in your field. But, and this is crucial, you always add your own thoughtful commentary or analysis. It's not just a retweet or a simple share.
You're adding your layer of value, your perspective.
Exactly. You're curating and commentating. Second is hub positioning.
Hub.
Yeah, you consciously try to become a central point, a hub for industry insights. People start coming to your profile not just for your thoughts, but because they know you highlight the most important stuff happening across the field.
Like a trusted curator for the whole industry.
Kind of, yeah. And third is active relationship building. This means really cultivating genuine connections with other macro-level influencers. It's about building a peer group, right? For support, collaboration, maybe shared projects.
Exactly. It's a network of equals influencing the industry together.
Okay, moving on. Page 7 talks about media appearances and publications. This feels like a big step outside of just LinkedIn itself.
It definitely is. But the source stresses your credibility starts on LinkedIn. That's the foundation.
Right. Got to have the platform presence first.
You have to have that consistent high-quality presence first. Then you leverage that influence for media outreach, using your established authority to get interviews, features, maybe quotes in mainstream media relevant to your industry.
So getting into trade journals, maybe even national news if it fits.
Potentially, yes. Reaching audiences beyond LinkedIn. And alongside that is a focused publication strategy.
Writing articles.
Exactly. Writing bylined articles for well-respected industry publications, journals, websites. It's another way to demonstrate deep expertise in places that already have credibility.
So LinkedIn is the engine, but you're projecting that power outwards. Okay, what about the business side? Growth and making money. Page 8 talks strategic LinkedIn advertising. How does that work at this level? Is it just boosting posts?
It's much more sophisticated than just boosting, according to this. It's highly targeted and data-driven. Content amplification uses ads, yes, but to extend reach specifically to chosen professional demographics.
Ah, so reaching the right people within that huge audience, aligning with your expertise.
Exactly. It's precision targeting, trying to hit more of that 85% recognition goal, perhaps. Ads also support brand partnership support.
Oh, so.
Helping sponsored content campaigns with brands reach very specific, valuable segments of your large audience. But the source really hammers the point. Ensure deep alignment with your personal brand, your values, and what your audience actually cares about. Authenticity matters, even when it's paid.
Right. Can't look like you're selling out.
No. And there's a big emphasis on ROI optimization. Tracking metrics, engagement, conversions, constantly refining the targeting and the ad spend based on hard data. It's very analytical.
So it's a performance marketing approach, really, not just spraying ads. Okay, then page 9 introduces selective brand partnerships. That word selective feels really important here.
It's absolutely the core idea. The source basically says quality massively trumps quantity at this level.
Fewer, better partnerships.
Precisely. Focus on high-impact campaigns, things that genuinely elevate both you and the brand. Requires strong brand alignment. The partner's mission and values have to mesh with yours.
Makes sense.
And critically, the partnership must provide real audience value. The content, the insight, whatever it is, has to be meaningful for your followers. It can't just be an ad read.
So it fits naturally, feels authentic.
Yes. The whole section boils down to strategic selection, choosing fewer opportunities, but making sure they're the right high-quality ones. Apparently, saying no often is key to protecting your macro-level brand.
That's a powerful point, protecting that credibility you've built. Okay, finally, the document touches on large-scale community building on page 10. How on earth do you manage interaction with, potentially hundreds of thousands of followers? You can't reply to everyone.
No, you absolutely can't. The approach has to change completely. It starts with discussion facilitation.
So starting conversations yourself.
Exactly. Proactively posing really thought-provoking questions. Things designed to spark meaningful, professional discussions among your followers. You become the instigator of good conversation.
Crafting prompts that get people thinking deeply.
Right, which then requires skilled community moderation. You have to guide these discussions, keep them productive, maintain high professional standards, keep the signal high and the noise low.
Maintaining the quality of the space.
Yes. And the actual engagement strategy shifts focus entirely. It moves away from trying to acknowledge every comment towards prioritizing quality interactions.
So what does that look like?
It means strategically responding to the top contributors, your industry peers, people adding significant value or asking really insightful questions. It's about elevating the best parts of the conversation, not trying to be everywhere.
Focusing your energy where it has the most impact on the community's quality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, really. You evolve from being the main source of value yourself to becoming the architect of a valuable community that's centered around your expertise.
Okay, so looking back across this whole document, the big takeaway for me, it seems really clear. Getting to macro status, yeah, the follower count is the gate, 500K plus.
Yeah.
But that's almost incidental.
In a way. It's the qualifier, not the definition.
Right. The real work is that deep strategic shift, becoming that recognized, credible thought leader, someone who actively shapes the conversation in your industry, who strategically leverages a network of peers, and who projects that influence beyond just LinkedIn.
That's a perfect summary, I think. This guide really describes an evolution, doesn't it? From just building your own reach to developing this systemic, embedded influence within the industry itself. You become part of the fabric.
Yeah, a recognized integral voice. Now, this guide is labeled Part 4, and it casually drops that Part 5 covering mega influencer strategies launches next.
The cliffhanger.
Right. It makes you wonder what happens when you scale even beyond this. Past 1 million, into that mega territory. How do things change again? What new rules, new responsibilities, maybe new opportunities pop up at that almost like unimaginable scale?
That is a fascinating thought to leave things on.
Yeah.
What does influence look like at the absolute peak?
Something to ponder. Well, this is a fantastic deep dive into this source material. Thanks for walking through it.
My pleasure. Always interesting stuff.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon with another deep dive.